Looks like we're live, and that's good. Uh-oh. Lost my camera. Ugh. Oh, that's why. Alright, this will work. We'll just do this. Alright. Let's go. Hey everybody, and welcome to League of Legends Anonymous Podcast, episode 338. You're getting a solo episode with Wise Papa Smurf because I couldn't get anybody to record this week. So it's like rolled around to Tuesday. We're supposed to record again tomorrow, and I hadn't got anything out, and I thought, maybe that's okay, but I'd prefer not because, I like to release stuff so that people have something every week. And, I know some of you look forward to this, so I wanted to make this, give you something at least, because even though my plan kind of fell apart as to what we're going to talk about, I got something new that I want to talk about. And oddly enough, it's inspired by Tyler. So, everybody is familiar with Tyler One and, what has, for good or bad, how he's impacted the game of League of Legends. That being said, this month or week or 2 weeks, whatever, it was announced that Tyler actually pulled off like it's not a trifecta, it's like a pentafecta or something, where he got challenger in all five roles, playing those roles individually, right? And the last most role being support. And that, of course, started a storm because Tyler obviously says things like, oh, support's so easy. It's the easiest role to climb on, etc. Right? And I am not one to, you know, look, you're a high elo dude. You got it in all the roles. But I think the problem with that argument really lies in what easy, like what easy means, right? And the biggest, and then he of course hit top 50 of the entire player base playing support, right? And there is a logical cutoff here where skills transfer, right? And there's some things I wanted to talk about because I saw a whole bunch of, I saw a whole bunch of different arguments made as to, like the Reddit comments and things about support and how easy it is and how, oh, it's so easy to climb. And Riot keeps buffing the role over and over again to try to get people to play, but nobody wants to, nobody will. So it's just out of control and it's that strong. And I think people have conflated not being useless with strong. Because at any point in the game, we have base damages. We don't really have the money to build damage. Those items are expensive. Our items are cheaper and do less. They give us cooldown reduction. And that's usually about it. Like, we'll get a shadow of what you all get. And we get 5 items, not 6, because one of ours is a glorified sightstone. Right? And that item, for gold efficiency purposes, sucks, and we can never sell it. And a lot of the times we're forced to leave open a slot for pink wards so we don't get our 5th item until like way later than most other people if we're not playing in a selfish way. So let's talk about that because it fucking drives me crazy whenever I read these threads and they're like, oh yeah, support's so easy. I want to start this off by saying I largely agree that support is easy mechanically. You're playing an entirely different game than you are in any other role. because you are playing from a state of being weak, right? Like, you don't really, at many points in the game, you may be able to, with base damage, burst an ADC, maybe. At some, if you pick a mage support and, you get going and they don't, you can probably burst an ADC. In lane, you're just as dangerous as anybody else, and ADCs are weaker than you because they don't have good base damages, right? Like, they don't have a ton of ability damage. They do auto attack damage, and their auto attack damage is the exact same as yours early. They get a little bit natural higher attack speed, but not much. So, I mean, you both don't have items. It makes sense that at that point in the game, you may well be stronger than them. I don't know why this is shocking to people that you need to, and that was like that forever. At the beginning of the game, supports were always strong. We always talked about we hold your hand throughout the early game. We let you grow, we let you get big, and then you carry the game. We don't do that. Like, there are rare instances where you can throw the game on your back and hard carry as a support, and that's when you pop off, and you pop off really hard. And the difference there, in contrast to other lanes, is even when I'm popping off really hard, I'm not keeping up with you if you're doing a normal amount, right? So, for example, I have 26 CS and 3 kills leaving lane. You have 1 kill and 94 CS. You're stronger than me. I'm not carrying that game. But if I go 7-0 and I get some level advantages and by the way, I'm also under leveled, so let's not forget that because I'm in a duo lane. And Riot nerfed EXP gains in duo lanes to help keep everybody down in the bot lane so we didn't pop off too hard. So, I'm not stronger than you at this point in the game. Even though I have all of these fucking kills, I'm not stronger than you. You have to pick champions that have hard ass base damages to be able to pull off something like that. You're still winning through utility in those fights. Like, that's what support does. It's a totally different game than winning through, like, okay, got it. Here's how I'm going to compare it. I don't know how many shooters you all have played, but if you remember the shooters that have classes, and one of those classes is a medic, and the medic has shitty guns and can res people and battle heal people, it is a totally different game you are playing. Your twitch instincts, your like ability to doink heads, all of that is less important than what matters. And what matters is being in the right place at the right time, knowing where the front's going to be, and turning a fight through utility and pushing your advantages, right? Rarely are you ever going to get into a 1v1 and do much of anything except die, or at least you're at a horrible disadvantage if you do that. Okay. Support is largely the same way. I mean, even if we're great and we pop off, you're still not, you're carrying the game through utility. You're not carrying the game through raw mechanical skill most of the time. There are obvious exceptions, and I'm speaking in generalities, right? Um, that being said, to say that support is ass down the easiest role, it is. Mechanically, there's no doubt about that. You don't have to CS. You can focus on purely on the dance of moving around the other person. You never really have to stop. You're lining up things, you're putting pressure on things. You decide when to roam, and you're largely free to do that. You have, like, all of your tasks are cerebral in nature, right? That doesn't mean that it's easy. That means that there's a lot to be good at, but none of those things are mechanical skill. And in a game of mechanical people that play mechanical roles, we have just said game boils down purely to mechanics. That's it. That's all that matters. That's what skill is in League of Legends. So if you don't have that, you're unskilled. And I don't think that that is entirely accurate. Because if I, I mean, I've played mid. I'm not terrible. I'm not great, but I can win some of those lanes. Like, it's not impossible to do it. My CS is not great, but it's not real bad. You know, it's it is not something that I'm like, oh my god, I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel totally outclassed. Blah blah blah. Top lane, I feel a bit like that because none of the matchups translate. Like I've played mage supports. I know how to mechanically operate these champions. I know mostly what I'm going up against. Top lane is a bit like I don't feel confident in knowing matchups up there because those matchups never come down bot, right? Um, but all that said, I don't feel uncomfortable. I don't feel uncomfortable with any of it. And it's not that hard. And I don't feel like I'm doing something totally different. It just feels like I have a different ball to juggle. Whereas whenever I'm support, I have to do ward cover. I have to, watch the map for the jungler. I have to, ping out a whole bunch of other things with vision and warning and all of these other issues that you come up with. And that's cool, right? But I'm not like hard focused on hitting those minions, and I'm not hard focused on mechanical outplays, though I do think that that's valuable pretty much anywhere you go, right? So maybe I'm rambling and I don't intend to, but like I was reading the comments and it kind of set me off because it's talking about here, I'll just roll down. Um, do 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 do. All right. It's a bunch of things that don't apply to the vast majority of anybody because they're talking about streamer problems and getting sniped and blah 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 blah. And keep in mind, I did not watch Tyler One stream at all, so I have zero commentary on what he did, how he did it, whether it was a mechanical support that he was playing. I know they said he played a lot of Pike, um, but anyway, you know, yeah. So, all right. Damn, my comment got buried. Let's just type in my name and go to it, I guess. I'm not finding it. Well, what the fuck? It's like not even there. I guess it got into like and three more other comments kind of deal, you know. But, okay, here we go. Yeah, okay, I found it. So, it starts off, it's supply and demand. No one wants to play support, so Riot has to gig up Buffett. Still, only desperate people play support. So by manning support, it's like you're playing versus autofills every few games. Good method to get LP. That becomes true way later because you can carry easier through utility when people know how to operate with buffs and aggression and they like trust you to do the right thing and give them buffs and things when it's appropriate. At lower elo, I've found that nobody does that. Like everybody just wants to farm out and not really do much of anything in laning phase. And then the games drag on and on and on, and then it becomes a coin flip for who gets caught out at 35 minutes. And then the game's over. And also, Riot only really buffed support once. And that was when they freed us up on gold expenditures by tying our items to that quest system. Because that freed us up to gain passive income despite not CSing. and still being able to build some damage. Because that was, and like I said, it takes, even if I build damage, I have to pop the fuck off to get the same amount of gold income that you get wherever else you are in the game. Anyway, okay. People are saying no. Jungle is the role that nobody wants to play, not support. Support's been about the same. It's just that mages are the problem. No, actually, they're not. Mages are not the problem at all. There are a million supports right now that jump the fuck out of mages and rip their dicks off. To play something like Xerath is crazy risky, especially if they lock in something like Blitzcrank. Because mages, for the most part, are immobile. Yeah, there are a bunch that do a lot of damage, but also they're all made out of paper. So, like, there are very few that can afford to miss anything, or else they're insta engaged on and killed. Nautilus, Thresh, Blitz, all of these are champions that fuck start the hell out of mages, and the only way that you fuck that up is if you're too afraid to hard engage on the mage when they hit or shoot or miss anything. If you let them poke the dick out of you, then yeah, they're really good because all they're doing is flipping coins on every Xerath Q. Am I going to hit this one? Flip. Heads. I hit it. Tails. I missed. Okay, well, throw another one in 6 seconds. They're not going to do anything to me. And it's true. They won't. Like, they won't engage you, they won't do anything. So mages seem super overpowered because nobody plays well against them. Right? Like, imagine all the champions in League that if I told you the entire wrong way to play against them would seem incredibly broken. Right? Like, um, yeah, if I was like, yeah, you just beat Darius in lane, it's that easy, and then you try to do it and you're like, God damn, Darius is broken, I can never beat this dude in lane. Yeah, it's because he's a fucking super strong laner and you're playing it entirely wrong. So he appears to be very good. Yeah, but there's clear disadvantages to that champion that, I mean, it's fun as fuck, but like, there are clear disadvantages to what he can do and weaknesses to exploit. And it's mostly just giving him a big hug so you don't get hit with the axe handle. But anyway, um, I'll just flash forward to talking about this whole thing. But when you talk about, people talk about skill ceiling of support and blah, 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 and like, oh, it's so easy. One guy specifically made the comment that when you take any support and you autofill them, right? Um, then you are most likely to lose because support skills are the least transferable to other roles. Okay, I can actually see your point there because if you play mid or if you play top, I can switch you from mid to top or top to mid. And yes, you will lose some games because you maybe don't understand the matchups of a top lane character all that well. Like, oh shit, I'm supposed to play. Like, how does the Scion Mundo match out? Come out? I don't know, right? Because I only play Zed and Kiana or whatever. Uh, but what I'm getting at is, yeah, you're gonna lose some of those, but your core is still there. You're still CSing. You're still doing lane trading. You're still trying to hold and freeze minion waves. You're still warding to prevent jungle ganks. All of these things are the same. Support, you got 50% new skills. However, the reason that that argument does not track that because supports are more out of fish out of water than anybody else if you lane swap them, and therefore support is easy. That was the argument that was made to me, right? Um, so that kind of pissed me off because first things first, it's entirely wrong, and the conclusion doesn't follow the argument, right? So what do I mean by that? Okay, if you go auto-filled to another role, right? Where the fuck? Why can I not find my comment? This is so annoying. Anyway, um, but yeah, there are a ton of various things that supports are expected to do that don't translate well. But to say, therefore, supports are the worst players in the game is just plain wrong because, or support is the easiest, therefore, support's the easiest role. Okay. Um, no, that the what you were actually saying is that support is the most unique role, not the easiest, the most unique, which is 100% fair because we don't do anything like anybody else does. We do something totally different, right? And if you have a ton of game sense, that translates really well to playing in support. If you're an ADC main that already knows how to play a duo lane and I plug you into support, you're going to do all right. You know all the matchups. There's a ton of shit that is instantly transferable from ADC to support. Tyler 1 is a fucking ADC main. The dude has played a duo lane the vast majority of his league career. That's the first thing he ever got to Challenger. Does it shock me at all that that son of a bitch is good at support? No. Like, no, that doesn't also make it the fucking easiest. But I want to go back to the whole unique lane thing because that is, like, that one made my head pop. Because the dude's like, yeah, you can't swap them out. And because they don't know how to do anything else, and therefore it's the easiest role. I said, dude, jungle is the same way. Jungle has like very few transferable skills to being a laner. And yet, jungle is considered to be one of the deepest and most difficult roles in League of Legends. And the guy responded with, nope, jungle's easy too. I'm like, okay, so this is how I know you're an idiot. Because you said you could play Zed mid or Zed jungle and not really lose. And I'm like, okay, like, you're an idiot. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Just because you can walk through in silver and do just as good as other silver junglers, not really knowing what you're doing, does not apply in any real sense to high elo. Jungle pathing, ganking, all sorts of, like, where you need to be, when you need to invade, what lanes need your benefit, and where you're going to be, smite fights, crab fights, all sorts of shit. Jungle, you do not autopilot. Like, if you play it well, you cannot autopilot. You have to be thinking terms ahead and where you're going and what side of the map you need to be on and what it is you're doing. Any moron can autopilot jungle and luck into doing well when everybody overextends and they just, chain gank over and over and over again. That doesn't make you good at jungle, that makes you lucky. So, like, that kind of crap drives me absolutely fucking bonkers. And so I don't know. Like, biggest issue is, yeah, just because it's unique, just like jungle is unique, doesn't make it easy and it doesn't make your lane harder. Just to say, like, if you just said support has the least emphasis on mechanics and mid lane has the highest emphasis on mechanics, or I don't even think that's true because I think ADC does have the highest emphasis on mechanics. But even if you want to make that argument, mid lane has the highest emphasis on mechanics and support has the least. I'd say, yep, that's 100% correct. Undeniably so. It's a fact. Well, aside from the fact that I actually think it's ADC, but let's just rephrase. Mid lane has a very high emphasis on mechanics, and support does not. Say, yep. If you say, therefore, support is the easiest role, I'd say, no, that implies that mechanics are the only thing this game is. And there are a ton of things that are very difficult about League of Legends. Like, you can be a mechanical fucking god and not know how to close out a game, and therefore you will lose, and you will be a coin flipper in silver. There are so many facets of depth of this game, and support is every bit as, if not as deep as any other. Well, not jungle. Jungle's deeper, but as deep as any of the other roles. I would say that that is 100% fucking true. Just you know, mechanical acuity doesn't play as big of a part. Fine. I'm old, man. I'm not mechanical. I'm fucking 38. You know, shit. I have white in my beard. Not even gray. Like, that shit is white. My mechanics, long time gone. I win games with up here. Like, I think through this shit. And when I don't think, I turn the games into coin flippy fucking nightmares. Because I go on autopilot. But that said, man, like, it irritates the shit out of me that everybody who is mechanical wants to boil the game down to only that. It's literally an ego thing. And it does not surprise me that this comes from the streamer with the highest ego in the entire world. And everybody else who thinks that they're good at the same thing jumps on board like it's correct. It is so obviously not that it's ridiculous. Okay, that rant aside, uh, I had something else I wanted to talk about, and I'll be damned if I remember what it is. I should have started with the other thing because I was always going to remember this rant. This one pissed me off. Um, hmm. Oh, the Cloud9 LS thing. Now I remember. That's what I wanted to talk about. And I don't know. Maybe we talked about this a week ago. I don't honestly remember, but I just kind of wanted to soapbox on this. Cloud9 released LS, and it was at a weird time. It was like right before game time. They're like, "Yeah, you're gone." And since then, we've found out very little about why they did that. They released a video that basically said, we had coaching differences with him, whatever that means. And everybody kind of went, oh, okay. If everybody will flash back to the episode before the LCS started when they announced LS as a coach, Double and I talked about this. We said, is this a good move for an ALCS team to hire LS at all? And my opinion was no, I don't actually think it was because I knew that from a personality standpoint, this was never going to work. Like, the guy would be a great analyst, but to put him in a position as a head coach doesn't feel like it's ever going to work because he has never shown that he has the right mentality to actually lead a group in a way that's not going to be abrasive. Because if you listen to his if you listen to his analysis of what's strong, what's weak, whatever, it is always coming from a position of this is what I think and I'm fucking right and you're fucking wrong and blah, you're going to do it this way. The LCS is filled with a bunch of 20-year-old millionaires that have gotten there from learning to play and master a video game that they know quite well. I have a very difficult time believing that anybody that comes in and tells people like this is what you're gonna do and you know this is how you're gonna play and you're just wrong and I know better than you is gonna have a very hard time doing that. You have to come in as somebody who's like it would almost help if you were like an elder statesman so people would have to like look at you and there's that like that respect for older people comes into play. So like you know like Phil Jackson at the Lakers or Coach K at Duke. You look at somebody like that and they've been there a long time and they clearly know their shit. And even if I'm a 20-year-old fucking badass superstar basketball player, I'm still gonna listen to this guy because he's coached the greats or he's been there. And player coaches have always kind of been a weird thing because you know how to play. That doesn't necessarily mean you know how to coach. And you had like proof in the pudding: Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky. Who's a football player that had a team for a while that fucking was a terrible coach? But none of those, like Michael Jordan, uh, owned the Hornets, and then later, like I think the Wizards, he was a part of, and both those teams suck ass and have been on the bottom of the league forever, despite having the most prolific basketball player in history as like one of their owners. Right? Wayne Gretzky owned the Arizona Coyotes, who you may win or you may remember from never having won the Stanley Cup as long as I can remember because they suck. They were shitty all throughout, never did anything. That being said, like LS had all these strong opinions. He's from Korea and he, has always had the opinion that whatever Koreans do is kind of like that's the way the game flows. And like very much like a Monte Cristo style opinion on that kind of shit. And he's not 100% wrong. I'm not saying that. Like I'm saying that the game kind of needs to be played regionally, right? Without trying to emulate what somebody else is doing because you cannot be a success copycatting another region at something that they're already doing better than you. You know what I mean? Like you have to innovate shit to be truly successful on an international stage. You have to be flexible. And I will say that LS did push flexibility in C9, and I think that was really good. That being said, I never thought this was going to work because his personality is way too fucking abrasive to actually get through to a younger player. At first, they may respect him, but then it's just going to feel like you're just getting yelled at all the time. And then it's going to cause a breakdown. And, the problem with innovation is they have to believe in your innovation. And when it feels like you're just putting them on random shit all the time that they're not comfortable with and not good at, then it you're going to lose their confidence in you very quick. And it's one thing to say like, "Oh yeah, the reason we lost that game is not because of this weird pick, it's because you weren't good enough at the weird pick, so it's your fault." How often of a player, if you put me on, like, just imagine you were one of these pro players, and like I'm a Thresh main, and they say, "Hey Blake, you're not gonna play Thresh this game because we really think that Olaf support is the next thing. So you're gonna play Olaf support this game. I know you haven't got any games in on it, but that's what you're gonna play that this game." And then we lose, and I do nothing because I've seen the champion play, but I've never played him really before. Don't really know anything about it. I'm gonna be real pissed off at the end of that game because I didn't feel like I could do anything or contribute. And then you're gonna go, "Yeah, it's your fault we lost because you're not good enough at Olaf support." Yeah, that's gonna piss me right the fuck off. And I can't imagine a situation in which that doesn't become an insurmountable head bashing, where the coaching staff and the players are just butting heads constantly. And from all of the comments that have been made from C9, from the players, from LS a little bit. I mean, he's just like, "Oh, I want my lawyer to work it out." Um, all the statements that were made, like everybody's like, "Yeah, this didn't work out. We wish the best for everybody. Like this was probably better in the long run for everybody involved." All that leads me to believe is that's a very nice way of saying I have zero faith in this guy. All right, like yeah, you have zero faith in that guy. I see that. Um, you know, I don't know how much of it was decision making and how much of it was personality, but like everybody wants to point out that Cloud9 was like 3-1, right? Um, but other people have pointed out that while they're 3-1, they really didn't face any challenges this for the first series of events, right? Like they didn't get tested against the top, top team. And so, yeah, I'd largely buy that because like you've got, Cloud9 beats let's see, February 5th, they beat Golden Guardians. February 6th, they beat EG. They lost to Liquid, which is an actual top tier team. They beat Immortals. Uh, then LS is fired. So the three teams that they have played, Immortals, EG, and Golden Guardians. Right now, right, Golden Guardians is actually of those teams. Let's go to the standings in the LCS here. Golden Guardians is tied for third with two other teams. EG is sixth, and Immortals is sixth. Team Liquid is tied with Cloud9 for first. Okay, so they lost to the other first place team, and they beat third place, sixth place, sixth place. I don't know that you can say that anything to do with LS's coaching, his picks, whatever, was working because on just a roster strength standpoint, if you had no coach at all, I would expect C9 to put up that exact same record. Right? So like you would have to actively fuck up those games in order to lose them. Realistically, I mean, Golden Guardians is actually pretty good, um, but Immortals, eh. EG, eh. Yeah, it feels premature to be like, no, 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 he was doing great. Why'd they kick him? I don't know that he was. Like, he won some games he was supposed to win. He didn't beat. Yeah, he'd be doing great if he, like, beat Liquid. If he beat Liquid, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, and 100 Thieves, I'd be like, yeah, no, he was killing it. Why'd they let him go? That was stupid. But, whenever we had this discussion, like, fucking 6 months ago, or it feels like 6 months. It couldn't have been that long. This was like 2 or 3 months ago when we had this discussion about LS and whether this was going to work. I feel like everything I predicted pretty much came true, and that the only difference is I predicted he would get through spring split and C9 would fall apart in summer split under the weight of his coaching and personality, and or he would literally crack with stress and be unable to perform. Aside from cracking with stress, because he hasn't had long enough to crack under stress before they got. I didn't think it would happen this fast, right? But aside from that, um, and obviously I thought he'd make it through spring. Everything else I said on LS appears to be 100% true. Like, there's a certain point you have to have age and experience. Well, not even age. You have to have experience or natural talent leading people to be a true head coach manager, right? Like, there are certain things that you're never going to be able to delegate. Like, you can delegate to a sports psychologist your team's mental health and performance, but if you still need them to perform, you have to take an active role in that. Like, you have to understand kind of what their triggers are, and while you can rely on experts, you're still going to be doing a lot of that yourself. No matter how you slice this pie, it would be very difficult for, I think, LS to realistically succeed in C9 or in any like Western organization, right? The problem is, I think in an Eastern scenario that he could do that because those players are fighting so hard for spots, and those players like are the org has such a thumb on the players, like because there's a lot of shady shit that goes on in some of, particularly in China and things like that, but in some of those contracts, like it's been all over Reddit, like, oh, they've forced me to do this or that, and like the conditions are terrible, blah blah blah. but I mean, the orgs have these people like in contract prison to a certain degree, and so except maybe like the top of the top brass, whereas that's less prevalent in an A, and where like the players kind of run the show, and it's a face game, and I don't know that you are going to be able to pop in and demand the amount of hours, effort, and practice that a LCK team is going to naturally show because they like from a cultural standpoint, Korea and really any Eastern country is of the mentality like you work yourself to death. You work really, really, really fucking hard because you succeed through work and education. In America, it's you get educated so you can make your life easier. You can make more money and have more leisure. Those are opposite goals. Well, I mean, same level of desire, but for opposite purposes. I don't know that our culture is ever going to let us be truly competitive with China and Korea, especially with their like localized video game advantages, like having 16 ping and therefore the best solo queue environment ever, and blah blah blah. And China, you're grinding against the sheer number of people is astonishing, right? But LS is coming from that environment, and I think the idea, like one of the things that the players had complained about was, I got put on this champion. I had never played that champion before, and I was told I'd be first timing it on the LCS stage. Okay, if you're expecting your players to have that kind of a player base, or you just believe that a champion is so overpowered that simply picking that champion, even if you suck at it, is going to win you the game, I don't know that I agree with you. I don't know that that's true even at the highest level. Um, but that being said, if you expect your players to be so good with every champion that they're able to swap and do these things, you're going to require a level of work ethic and load that I don't think is feasible in NA. And if that's the experiment, it's going to fail here. You might succeed in the LCK or in China, but you probably won't here. So I just thought that was something particularly interesting, and it happened largely as I predicted. So, yeah, I thought that was worthy of being discussed. Last thing I want to talk about before I round out the podcast is the new support champion, Renata Glask. I've been asked my opinion on this champion, and at first I said she sucks. Her her She had a 44% win rate, but I didn't really care about that because that's in the wheelhouse of what a early release is going to be. Like everybody's going to suck until they get good at a champion, and the win rate will come up. Um, the problem is, I tried to play her like okay. In supports, a hook is always an incredibly meaningful opportunity that causes something crazy to happen and a lane to be instantly won if it lands. So that is something you generally want to put all of your points in to get the cooldown bonus down so you can throw more hooks in lane and have a larger lane presence. Renata's a champion that her cooldowns are all supposed to be incredibly impactful and really, really fucking strong, and therefore they're gated by large, long cooldowns. You do something, and that's pretty much all you do. Well, the problem therein lies that I was maxing Q because, traditional knowledge would say you want to max Q because Q is the thing. Right? The problem is your Q doesn't do a lot of damage. It's not like Blitzcrank's Q, where you hit it and you're like, yes, they're dead. Nope, it's actually very weak and doesn't really do a whole lot. And the move somebody around afterward is kind of a niche thing that's actually cool and fun and unique, but it's not a good ability, and it's definitely not the one you're wanting to max first. When I played her, I made the mistake of maxing that first, and she felt terrible. Like, nothing I did, she didn't do anything. Because, like, right off the bat, her passive gives her bonus damage off autos and whatever, and your ally procs that damage. The procced damage is not significant in any way, shape, or form. I don't even truly notice. Like, there's a little difference in the amount of damage that goes out, but it's not incredibly noticeable. So, shouldn't have damage there, really. The Q doesn't do any damage. The buff that adds movement speed and attack speed and lets somebody zombie res doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't do any damage directly. Like your ADC does some damage, but at rank 1, you get 20% attack speed and 20% movement speed, or something like that. Maybe it's only 10 now, but I don't know. They think it's 20 still. That's not amazing, right? It's the zombification part of it that's supposed to be cool, but that's gated on like a 20 something second cooldown, like 23, I think, off the bat. And then her E is like uh, a little baby karma Q that goes through shit and pops on the first like champion hit or whatever. And it does the shield thing for any allies it passes through. It doesn't appear to be sexy, but the reality is that's the thing that you max first. Because without it, you have absolutely no lane pressure. And with it, you have some lane pressure. And it lets you actually do shit. And then you use the Q for like re-engage or disengage. And so she plays like this weird kind of hybrid reverse enchanter, and it's all about determining when putting a 5 second attack speed buff on somebody, they're going to die in 4.5 seconds or get a kill. And it's not like Zillion. You don't just like throw it on somebody right as they're about to die, or you literally waste the buff because they die super fast after they come back up. Um, she is actually a lot of fun when you build her right. I've found that the mythic that you want to build is Imperial Mandate because everything else feels bad, and then you build the standard like enchanter item set where you're increasing shields and giving your shields additional effects and blah 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 because that actually seems to synergize the best. And after I made that change, she felt really good, like strong good. And then I went back and looked at her win rate again like 3 or 4 days later, and people started figuring this shit out. And her win rate jumped to like 49, 50%. Right then nerfed her, and I think the win rate has settled. It peaked at like 52%, and it's settled back down a bit. But like, she's actually good. However, I will say that like the long cooldowns, like before, I was like she has long cooldowns and they don't feel like they do anything. But now that like you Emax first, it actually kind of works, and then you just leave Q largely alone, and it just is throw it out once every now and then to do something with because it's not that good. The missile speed is really slow. The length of it is not nearly as long as like a Blitzcrank Cook is, and it feels like it needs to be. But that's neither here nor there. If you max out the shield nuke, it's better. And so, having done that, and then having built her Imperial Mandate and whatnot after that, she actually feels pretty good. I would go that far to just say she actually feels pretty good in those conditions. But before I discovered how I was supposed to do that right, it was so bad. And so, like, my opinion on her has completely 180 as I've put more games. Like, she was a first impression, like, ugh. But then after, I've probably played her 10 times. And in those 10 games, yeah, I think she's actually pretty strong. I will say that of all the current level supports right now, aside from maybe Yumi, which I don't consider a champion in League of Legends because I ban her every game. Uh, aside from Yumi, she is probably the most dependent on your ADC to succeed of any support, which means I don't think she's going to be a great solo queue pick. Her ult, the duration is way too slow on that, like way too short on that shit. And that's the real problem that I have is she has a kit that's designed to have very high impact moments, and it doesn't really have any of those. Honestly, the whole like attack each other thing, they've gated the duration so much that it doesn't even really honestly matter. I think I've gotten like 2 kills in 10 games with the attack each other thing. I've gotten more kills out of the fact that they're attacking each other and not moving to defend themselves. So in that regard, it feels like basically like a Sona ult or Nami ult with a twist. You know, like you're just holding somebody there. It's actually most akin to a Nami ult. Like, and I use it in the same circumstances as I would use a Nami ult. Though I did have one situation where somebody was really low and I tagged their ADC with the ult, and then the ADC just turned and shot the guy that was out of my range. I'm like, yes. But and you can steal Baron and shit with it if you time it perfect. But I mean, all that said, like for a high impact ability, it has so many variables that can make it absolutely useless. So what I my advice to support mains that want to play Renata would be is just ignore the fact that that ult makes them do damage to each other and pretend it's a Sona ult, a Korean pop star chick ult, um, a Soraka ult, not a Soraka ult, Sona, what was the other? Nami, like, pretend it's one of those. Like, just use it for its CC, and that's literally it. Okay? So, don't, like, don't don't try to use it as like I'm gonna get kills by making them kill each other. All right, so right now we are blessed to have 21 patrons supporting the podcast, and I truly appreciate that. And so I want to do a shout out again to the current supporters of the podcast. I'm going to pick the newest supporter, and that would be Danny. Danny, you know who you are, you handsome son of a bitch. I don't even need to say it. Because you know, everybody knows. We've all been talking about it. You know, not even behind your back, just to your face. It's just known. You know, it's like John Smith level. Danny's handsome. It is known. You know, look at that charming son of a bitch with his perfect teeth and white smile. Everybody knows. They aspire to be you. Why? Because you support Lola Podcast like a true champ, like a hero, Danny. Because that's what you are. You're a hero. And I love you. And so do all them bitches. They're all over you. All you need to do is, you know, let it hang. They'll come right out. They're waiting, Danny. They want that. They want that action. And you've got it. Because you have that kushpa. It just is like a magnet. Everybody knows. They see it. You should feel it. Because you're that fucking cool. Alright. Hey, and you guys could be that cool too. All you have to do is toss the podcast some Skrilla. I don't care if it's $1. If it's $1, you are literally throwing me a quarter for every episode, and that's $1 a month. Big deal. It's not going to break your bank, but if everybody who downloaded, listened, and dropped $1 a month, then, I mean, hell, the podcast would easily support itself and we could do tons of fun shit. You know, um, watch Worlds together here in my basement setup, or you know, I could fly anybody in. We could go to Worlds if we had that kind of money. It would be super cool. And like I could get a new webcam, even though it's held up pretty well today. But I've been looking for like a new webcam because I kind of need one. But if you guys want to do that, you totally can. We're still doing the like LOLA challenge where you give me somebody to play games on. I really liked the splitting the games between me and Stove because I think it gives us an interesting talking point. But if you want to do something like that, anything over $100 or $100 or over gets you the ability to pick who I'm going to play my next 10 games on and how I'm going to do that in ranked this season. That still stands for me. So if anybody wants to do that, the door is always open for you. We've done coaching upon request, and anybody who's really like $5 or more has been kind of the line there. I've also done some free coaching just because people have asked, and I'll still do that. But if you have to catch me to do it, right? For free at a time that I can. But if you're a Patreon for $5, I will make time if I'm requested. Okay, like that I can do if y'all support the podcast. But we do need your support because right now I'm to a point where the podcast is supposed to make $88 a month right now. And at $88 a month, I can pay my audio editor and I can pay Bluehost. But after that, I have $8 a month to make it to all of the end of year shit, which is like the website that we actually put the shit on, and like uh, Squadcast where we record the audio. You know that costs, and right now we're below the line on raising what we need to actually make the money to cover those costs. So please, guys, if you like the show, help us out. I know that it's not been incredibly consistent, and we are floating some. Everybody here's a volunteer. Nobody makes anything off of this, and so like if I don't want to be that guy that's like, hey, you have to be here every fucking week because I don't want to abuse or burn out my volunteers. But that creates some times where it's either all on me and I do a solo episode like this, or the episode doesn't get made. And I'm sorry it has to be like that. But if I had the money to actually pay people, it would probably be a better scenario. But right now, it's a labor of love. And if you love what we're doing, please help because I honestly don't know how much longer the podcast would be around if I have to both financially support it and give my time every week. And I don't mean that as a threat. It's just like it's like a burnout warning, right? And so I can do one of those things, but I really don't want to do two. So please, guys, help us out. I would really appreciate it. Even a dollar makes a big difference. So thanks, and I don't want to say this every damn week, but we're literally like below the line right now, so it's really important. I do, however, want to say thank you to everybody. Like, our community exists largely in the Discord. Like, that's where everybody hangs out. That's where we live, and we we went under the line for Discord tier boosts or whatever. I made one mention of that, and like six people dropped boosts on the server, and so that touches my heart. I really appreciate the amount of support you guys give to the community. And, for all of you out there that listen to the podcast but don't hop into the Discord, hop into the fucking Discord. Like, that's where the party's at. Just sit in a room. Somebody will join you. I'm looking right now at the rooms. And if somebody's in there, after I'm done hitting the record button, turn that shit off. That's where I'm going to go play. So if you're there, I'll see you around. Good night, everybody.